joining. In this session, we'll be talking about monitoring your D365 F&SCM tenant. My name is Jou Lin. I'll be the presenter for today. Some background about myself. I'm the practice team lead for New Era Technology. Been with the Dynamics product for more than 10 years. I started my career doing AX development and slowly evolved my skill set through the CE or CRM and also the Power Platform. I'm a Microsoft certified professional. Here's my LinkedIn profile in case if you want to connect with me. Some random background about myself. I'm a Taiwanese. I grew up in Thailand, so I do speak multiple different languages. I also teach Mandarin Chinese on the weekend for fun. Here's the agenda for today's session. So we'll be looking at a monitoring. So why do we want to monitor? What do we want to monitor? What are the different tools for monitoring? So we'll be going over these couple of different tools. We'll be doing some live demos as well on some of the tools. And finally, just some key takeaways and general recommendations about monitoring. Here's the session objective, what we'll learn today. So understanding the different aspects of monitoring, understanding the different tools or links that you can navigate to monitor. And last but not least, some of the best practices that we have seen so far and also some of the items that were recommended by Microsoft. First question is, why do we want to monitor? Here are two diagrams that I found online that describes well from my perspective, why do we want to do monitoring for Dynamics? So the diagram on the left side, basically it's two parents, they bought the most expensive monitoring machines on the market. So there are a lot of parents out there that are so crazy about monitoring their kids. So basically it's the same idea of monitoring D365. What you want to make sure is the system is okay, so there's no surprises. You don't want your system to go really bad before you know about it. The second diagram on the right side basically is another aspect of why do we want to do monitoring. A lot of times there are hidden costs or an unexpected costs, especially from Microsoft side where everything is on the cloud, you pay as you go. On the licensing side, same thing as well. There are sometimes licenses that you weren't expecting, and at the end of the day, Microsoft comes to you and try to get it from you. So you want to understand what you are currently using and what potential items that would cause you to pay additional due to the usage of what you're using. So here's the summary of why do we want to monitor. Basically, you want to understand your system and understand what are the customizations that you have to make sure the system is performing well, your cost is under control, and then you can support it as well as security compliance. We do have a lot of clients where they need to be in compliance with like SOX out there when they go public. So there are lots of aspects of monitoring. And you want to make sure you can troubleshoot the issues quickly and proactively when something comes up. And last but not least, stay in compliance with Microsoft when they have new things coming out. Especially Microsoft do release licenses every month, so they do change it every single month. One quick note, if you notice on the slide on the bottom, there would always be a reference sometimes on some slides. If you're interested in understanding more, I did put the reference link and then you can read more about it. So next question we want to look at is, what do we want to monitor? There are 8 different aspects that we should monitor. So first thing is performance. Performance has been something that a lot of users struggle since the AX world of Dynamics. Basically, you want to understand why is your system slow? What is causing your system to be slow? Especially performance affects how users adopt to the product. Second item is licensing. Licensing has not been very easy for Microsoft, given that they change the licensing structure every single month on some of the license SKUs. So Especially you want to make sure you understand your licensing and adjust it before your licensing renewal. So like year agreements, they renew every 3 years. CSP licenses, you could do changes as you go. Next is storage. So storage is something that a lot of our clients struggle the most, especially when you have more data in your system. Microsoft do not actually stop you for having more storage, but what they will do is they will come back to you and say, hey, you're using this much storage, so I'm going to start charging you more. Storage is something where it is very expensive. It costs $40 per gig per month for D365 storages. So you want to be careful of what you're currently storing in your system and making sure that you run any cleanup jobs regularly to make sure those are down. Fourth item is API request. So if Microsoft do limit how much you can use for API, so overusing it would cause the system to throttle. So you want to make sure you look at how much APIs you're making to the system. Fifth item is security and privacy. So you want to make sure you understand who is logging into your system, who has access to your system, especially if you're a public company, you want to make sure you're in SOX compliant and then people are only able to access or perform items that they can only do from their jobs. Next is user access and resource usage. So sometimes you might want to understand some users, what they are frequently using in the system and understand if they have been struggling on some of the business processes. So we'll be going over some tools where they can understand, where they can have different tools that can run and understand what screens they are using. 7 is application logs and error. So you can check the system logs for anything that's happening in the system, for example, like bash job that are currently failing in the system. And last but not least, some messages from Microsoft where there's any service updates, you want to know about it. Especially Microsoft do 4 service updates every single year, and then you can only skip one for the Dynamics product. What tools or links are useful for monitoring? Before we go into the first tool, I want to go over the basic concept of security. So security in Dynamics is controlled by the Azure Active Directory, where you can assign security roles inside your Dynamics product. Each security roles can have multiple duties or privileges, and those control which forms, which tables and fields or reports or any operations that it can perform. So in a nutshell, this is the concept of security. So where can you look at the security? So in Dynamics, there are canned report inside the system. So I've laid those out here. There's the user role assignments and also there's the role to user assignments. Basically, when you run these reports, just different aspects of security you can look at. So it's either by user or by the role. By understanding the different roles assigned to each user, you can understand which screens they have been able to access. Next item that you want to monitor in the system is the batch jobs. So whenever you have any custom batch jobs or integrations, usually it's under the batch job screen. What you want to be looking at is any batch job that are in waiting statuses. Those are recurring batch job. And if you hit the batch job history, you can see the log. And what you want to be looking at is anything that aired out. Next item in D365 is the data management framework. What you want to be looking at is the target status. So a lot of integrations do use the data management framework. And if you go to this link, what you will notice is the target status tells you which one of those integrations, either it ended or it aired out or it didn't even run. So here are the different areas you can look at for monitoring some of the data management log. Next tool that we want to go over is lifecycle services. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with lifecycle services. Basically, it's a portal where you can spin up environments. There are a couple of monitoring tools inside it. Um, for example, on this screen that I've screenshot here, you have SQL Insights where you can run queries on what are the current blocking ones. And basically on this screenshot, it has the specifics. So you want to run these two items, current blocking tree and NSQL process. So if you found out something that are currently blocked, what you could do is copy the execution ID. And then what you could do is paste in the ID into the process ID and execute it. That way you can end the SQL process. Other things that you might notice on this LCS is that there are other tabs here. What you might be noticing is that Microsoft do put in warning messages that some of the features here will be deprecated, and they are encouraging you to use application insight, which I will go over later in the slide how it can be used. Next item or tools that you want to be looking at is probably your licensing. Licensing has not always been easy. What I have attached here is a screenshot of Microsoft licensing guide. Basically, the one I highlighted is related to F&SCM. They did include the newest licensing SKU, which is the Finance Premium. And if you notice on the left column, basically it's the base license that you can purchase. And on the column side, you'll notice the different other products of Dynamics, where if you purchase the attached license, it's basically just a few dollars more to get additional access to other products of Dynamics. So what I want to mention here on this slide is that it is encouraged to actually purchase attached license if you have the same users that need access to other Dynamics products. So for example, if you have the finance, which is $210, and if you also need the supply chain management, then you basically just need to purchase the attached license, which is plus $30. So instead of paying 210 times 2, which is 420, you can just pay 210 plus the attached license, which is 240 for that user. So it's a way of saving some licensing costs if you are planning to renew very soon for your Dynamics license. Power Platform Admin Center is the next area where you can look at monitoring your system. This is the URL for it. What we'll be looking next is the licensing screen. So I'm gonna do a live demo and show that screen to y'all. So what you want to do is navigate to admin.powerplatform.com. Once you're in it, go to billing and then go to licenses. These include other Power App and Power Automate as well, but we want to look at just finance and operations. Currently, if you notice on my screenshot, it doesn't have a lot of information here. This screen currently, from my understanding, is still being worked on by Microsoft, so it doesn't have accurate licensing count at the moment. In the future, I am pretty sure Microsoft will enhance this screen to better fit the same as what they have on their licensing guide. Next, we want to talk about storage licensing. So as mentioned, storage in Dynamics is quite expensive. And in this screenshot, it contains the different type of storages that you get when you purchase the base licenses. And then as you purchase more user licenses, you get additional storages. Storages in Dynamics include the database license and then also the file license. So the database license is where it's the most expensive and where people use their licenses. By default, you get 60 gigs when you purchase 20 base licenses. As you purchase more, you'll get 4 gigs for each of the additional user licenses. So where can we monitor what you currently have in your storage? So same thing is you want to go to the Power Platform Admin Center and then go to the capacity screen. And then at the bottom of the screen, it will give you a finance and operations database license, current usage. So let me show you in the live system. So same thing, Power Platform Admin Center. What you want to go to is resources, capacity. Down below, there's finance and operations databases. There's the database, and then there's the file. So it currently gives me that I'm currently licensed for 240 gigs. I'm currently using only 26 gigs. So I'm still within the compliance. There's file, which stores all the attachments. Next area I want to show is by environment. So if you hit on this tab, finance and operations, this will give you all the different environments that you have for Dynamics F&O. And down here below, these contain the database usage and also the file usage. So if you click on one of these items, and what this will do is it will give you a graph of the the list of top 10 tables that are currently used by this database. So currently in this database, my biggest table is the batch history and the batch job history. So this tells me that I probably should run some cleanup jobs to bring this storage down. You can view as a chart. So if you click on this, what this will do is it will select the top 10 or top 9 tables, and then look at the trends of these databases. For the past month, seems like this is the growth. So as you could see, this one is growing at a high level. So we probably want to look at these. So this one is the subledger account table. This one is the batch job history. You can actually add more tables if you wish to. So if you want to look at plus table, you can just type it in. It will include it in there. I think you can only show 9 at the same time, so you probably have to remove one of these. Yep, so I include the cust table, so it is a very small table, so that's why it wasn't on the default screen. So going back to this list, what you could also do is export as CSV. So export every single table from the system and what is currently consuming your database, and do some more evaluation on your system, which tables you should probably run cleanup jobs on. We went over this and went over this chart as well. Feel free to click on some of these links. So some of them are very useful from the Microsoft document. Last but not least, some of the links available on Microsoft website is the service update and message center. So as mentioned, Dynamics product, they do update 4 times a year. You can only skip 1 update, so you at least have to do 2 updates per year. They do have a schedule for their service update, so you can click on this link to actually see their schedule and start planning ahead of testing your products before they do the mandatory upgrades. There's also another screen on the message center, which is on the Office admin portal, where you can see some of the different messages from Microsoft saying some features being deprecated or new features coming out from F&O. Here's the screenshot of the message center. So this is the admin center. When you log in, looking at the health menu item message center, you'll see you can filter on different products. So here I filtered on the finance and operations app, and it tells me these are the different things that are deprecating or some of the service updates for schedules that they have changed, etc. And this is the service update link. So Microsoft do have a chart for it when they're doing update, when is the mandatory updates for your environment. Next tool that we will be looking at is the Azure Application Insight. So as mentioned on the previous slide when I was talking about LCS, There are a couple of features that Microsoft wanted us to start using application insights instead of using the LCS. From my perspective, Microsoft is moving away from LCS and they're using Power Platform and other Azure products to replace the features on those. So what is application insights? Basically, it's a feature in Azure where you can monitor and have some telemetry of um, from D365 F&SCM, and it's a native integration that you can configure easily. So there are 6 different telemetry types available on Application Insights. I've listed down all those here, and then you can turn on based on which one you are interested in. So Application Insights is an Azure product, so basically you pay based on usage. So if you feel like you probably don't need that telemetry, you don't have to turn it on so that you don't have to pay that much for the data. So to actually set it up, what I'll be going over the next few slides is just how to set those up. So first thing is you want to make sure you install the Application Insights. So what we want to do is navigate to your environment. And what you want to do is search for the feature management. And go to the all tabs. Search for monitoring. And select monitoring and telemetry. And if you notice, currently I have a disable button because I already installed it. If it's not installed, you should see a button that says install. So what you want to do is just click on it and then have it installed. Once it is installed, what you want to do is go to your Azure and spin up a new application insights. So let's go to application insights and hit create. Basically, you want to select the subscription that you have and select the resource that you'll be using and give it a name. Once you're done, just hit review and create and then hit create. It probably takes a few moments to create this. I do have one that is already created, so we're going to use that one instead, which is this new Era COE application insights. There are a couple of parameters where you want to be copying. Basically, it's the instrumentation key, and then we'll be using this to link between our application insights and our D365 environment. So let's go back to our D365 environment. And then let's go to monitoring to set up the configuration. When you come into monitoring settings, everything should be turned off. So as mentioned, you can choose to turn or toggle on and off based on your preference. If you're interested in seeing some of the custom metrics or form runs, etc., then you can turn on and off based on your preference. Next item you want to set up is environments. So this would be the environment ID for your D365 environment. So you can get this from your LCS. So basically just go to LCS. Navigate to your project. Full details. And what you want to do is copy your environment ID, which is this value, and then put it over in your environment ID in this field. There's different types of environments. Since I have a test environment, so I'll be using this test. Once we're done with setting up environment, we can set up the application insights registry. So this is where you can set up the link between your D365 environment and the application insights. So this instrumentation key is basically coming from the application insight instrumentation key that we just looked at. So just pasting that here and then save it. That's pretty much it to set it up. Now to demonstrate what telemetry comes out from application insight, what I'll be doing is in F&SCM, I'm going to trigger an event. So I'm going to go to a GL screen. And let's look at maybe main accounts. So let's do main account. And let's say I'm going to trigger an event of an error. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this main account. And I do see this error of financial dimension. You cannot delete it, etc. So this information actually is sent over to Application Insight, and we'll be looking at that on Application Insight shortly. So let's go to our Application Insights, and let's look at Investigate, Transaction Search, and then see all data in the last 24 hours. So if you notice, the error that I was triggering from my D365 is getting logged in Application Insights. So these information are logged in the system. It tells you which legal entity it was logged against, and it does tell you which user triggered it. So in terms of this is useful in terms of understanding are users having some troubles in your system, maybe they need more training. So these are some of the information you can get from Application Insights. Application Insights also provides you some metrics on which screens that user navigates to. So for example, if I navigate to a couple of different screens, maybe from AP, I went to the customer screen. And then drill down into one of the customers. If I come back to the application insights, it should log it shortly. So I probably have to just refresh. Let me just bring up my older transaction. I think that takes a while for it to actually log it. But here are some of the other screens that were logged in previous screens. So there are some triggers on creating shipments, etc., being run by some of the users. You can actually filter by which user triggered the event. So you can filter by user ID as well. So I only want to see mine. And these are all the page views that I've been to. And you can look at other users as well, which screens they have been to in the system. I think that's all I wanted to show from Application Insights. I did put a couple of screenshots here to show how to set it up, which I went through. And if you're interested in watching this video from Microsoft, it does have a live demo of setting this up as well. There are other things that you can set up on Application Insight, which are alert rules. So sometimes you might want to know if users get errors, you want to get notified. So you can set those up in Application Insights. And there are a couple of triggers you could do. Basically, if you want to do like by errors, and sometimes you don't want errors getting an email for every single error. You can define a time frame, let's say 5 minutes. If there's more than 10 errors, then it sends you an email. So you can actually define the different triggers and within a certain range of time. Next tool for monitoring that I wanted to mention is Azure DevOps. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have used Azure DevOps for Dynamics project. It is used for tracking some of the work items. You can actually create pipelines for deployments, etc. So just want to mention about Azure DevOps. Last but not least, some of the items that we have used is Power App and Power Automate. So Azure DevOps is nice where you can track the work items, but eventually if it cannot generate work items based on the schedule basis. So basically someone has to go in and put in a user story or a bug when something happens. So what we did in our team is that we built a Power App and Power Automate where you can actually have recurring work that someone could go in and monitor items and then mark the items as complete or there's an error, etc. So this is what we have done. I'm going to demonstrate that for everyone. So let's go to the monitoring app. So monitoring app is built on the Power Platform framework. It is a model-driven app. So what we have built is based on what we need for some of our clients. So what we have here is some of the monitoring tasks that we do for our clients. So what we do is we configure all the different tasks that we need to monitor for our clients and basically specify when do these monitoring activities need to happen, whether it's weekdays, every single day, and at what time do these activities need to be created. So in this case, what this does is at every day at 5 a.m., this task will be created for monitoring. And what we have in monitoring assignment is basically all the historic monitoring activities that has been created and the status of it, whether it has been checked or not. So if you look here, one of the tasks failed because someone went in and found out and monitored, found out something failed. And what we do is we log those as some of the results and tasks, and then we log the comments in here. And eventually what we also do is create a bug in Azure DevOps, and that can be worked on by a developer to actually fix it. So monitoring assignments are just for monitoring and having a historic information of all the monitoring we have done in the system. There's one Power BI that we have created for our client. Basically, it gives a holistic view of these are all the monitoring activities and what has been monitored. So for example, this one, we completed 1,536 monitoring activities. And then this is the percentage that it completed successfully. 36 of them failed. And we also have the comments of why it failed. So there's a grid that shows these are the failed issues and comments from it. You can actually build more from Power BI. So all the data is easily accessible for Dataverse, which is the backend database for Power App. Last but not least, some general recommendation for all the topics that we have covered. So for performance, you want to make sure that you set up those batch jobs to run on off-peak hours. You don't want to run during day where user is using the system. So you want to schedule it during the off-peak hours. Performance, you want to make sure you have understanding of your integrations and customizations. Most of the errors that we see for clients, they actually come from custom code and not from out of the box. So want to make sure you monitor those for performance. Licensing and operational costs. So review licensing for sure before you renew your licensing. A lot of times you assign a license to user, but they are no longer or actively using the system. So you can actually use application insights to see if the user is even navigating to any of the screens. If not, those user license probably is best off be assigned to other users or individuals. And you can always purchase attached license when you do use multiple D365 modules. Next, for storage and allocation and usage, you want to make sure you run some cleanup jobs and delete any data not needed in non-production environments. So Microsoft count storage for both sandbox and production environments the same. So they all add up the same way. If you do not need some data in your sandbox environment, you can always delete that when you restore your database down from your production down to your tier 2 or above environments. You want to make sure you set up some backup history to clean up some of the recurring job. And you want to run some cleanup jobs for your data management staging tables. Those can easily grow up when you have integrations that have lots of data coming in. And there are a lot of other cleanup jobs in the system where you can run that you should look at. API requests, you want to make sure you use asynchronous if possible and understand what of the APIs that are hitting your endpoints in D365. Security and privacy, review which security roles are assigned to what users and understanding what each one of those security roles have access to it. Next is user access and resource usage. Some users might be struggling in using the product, and then if you use the application insights, you could probably tell which users are struggling based on the errors that they're getting. Application logs and errors, check for any batch job failures or data management import failures. Could be a bug in your customizations that you should probably send over to your developers for fixing it. And last but not least, for message from Microsoft, check for Microsoft updates. Any features that they're deprecating in the future is very important. Sometimes you do use some features and then Microsoft is deprecating it. So you want to plan ahead and understand what does it take to move to the other features that Microsoft developed. And be aware of any schedule updates from Microsoft because they do update every single year. And you want to make sure you don't want to be the last person testing the system before they force you to update. Key takeaways, start monitoring your system. I did summarize the different tools that you want to use to monitor based on the 8 different areas for monitoring. So this is just a summary of all the items that we went over. Last but not least, there are a lot of different links that I do recommend you reading through it. Lots of good Microsoft document out there and some YouTube videos that you can look at. Here's my contact information if you're interested in connecting with me on LinkedIn or emailing me for any questions about these slides or this presentation. You can download this presentation using this QR code. And thank you for listening for this presentation. Hope you got something from it. Thank you so much.